Episode number 128 of Making a Case. Why your favorite relationship influencer might be single. Let's get it. Hey, what up, though? I'm your host, Dr. Jacob Ison. We at you with another episode of Making a Case. Episode 128, by the way. Okay. So, in today's episode, we are addressing why your favorite relationship guru or influencer may be single. Okay. Now I know that these people are not gonna like it. Okay. Excuse me. Let me cut my ring off because we about to go in. Okay. Uh I know that if this video make their way to, the single influencers, they're not gonna like this. But the truth is the truth, because I have to be totally transparent. Like some of these reasons, and I have five, by the way. I have five reasons of why your favorite relationship influencer, the person that is giving you advice, right? Why they may be single. Okay. Um Now I think these reasons are probably the reason why a lot of people, even outside of YouTube, just in general, may be single, right? Particularly if they're successful, right? Because a lot of this, if we was to be honest, has a lot to do with success. Let me scoop my chair up. Okay. So a lot of this has to do with success, right? When men or women earn a certain amount of money, where they get a certain amount of visibility, they start feeling themselves, their expectation rises, and so forth and so on, right? So we're going to touch some of that and maybe some other things that you may not have thought about of why that they may be single, right? We heard of, and of course our channel norms is, one, we take points and not people, and then two, we don't do all the cussing derogatory stuff because we are professional over here. But I will say that I'm not going to bash anyone, but I think if you're familiar with the YouTube space, you heard of Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, Dr. Sarah Fontenot, I think that's how you pronounce her name. Of course, you're familiar with Derek Jackson, and there's other relationship podcasts and people who call themselves coaches that's out here, right? That are divorced or single. Okay. And so we're just going to talk about why, they may be single. And I don't think that it's not relevant to talk about, because I think you can offer good advice and still be single. Hey, once again, in full transparency, I'm a single man myself and I give relationship advice. Okay. I don't consider myself a relationship expert, more so a consultant or a specialist, right? I really consider myself a specialist. But I give more so relationship advice in general. And that could be romantic relationship, that could be friendship, that could be family, what have you. All right. Because that's what my consulting business is all about. Okay. Which you can check me out at RCD Consultancy if you want to, book a session. Shameless plug. Now, so without further ado, let's get into it. Like I said, I have five reasons of why, your favorite influencer may be single. Okay. And I have a different clip for each one of them. All right. So let's get into it.
Let's talk about a couple issues you're going to have if you're dating someone who has a huge ego and you're in a relationship with that person. One, it's very difficult for that person to ever admit that they're wrong. It's going to be very difficult. They're never at fault. They've never done anything wrong. So getting that person to apologize, it's going to be almost always impossible, because remember, they've never done anything wrong. The other thing is their desires and needs are going to always come first. It's always about them. It's always about them. Their desires and needs are going to always come first. So when it comes to making sacrifice, if you're sacrificing for them, then it's fine. But they're not going to always be willing to sacrifice for you, because the way they see it is your sacrifices for them means that somehow you're supposed to be blessed by that. Dating someone with an ego is not easy. Let me know your.
So one of the reasons why you'll see that most successful content creators, influencers, relationship gurus, or what have you, And really, I would say just successful people in general have a hard time being in a relationship and finding someone is the ego, right? Um, Especially successful people. Successful people have an ego, and a lot of times, depending on what field you're in, you kind of have to have one, right? You are very full of yourself. You think highly of yourself. Particularly if you got it out the mud, as we like to say, right? So I'm a person who like to say a lot of times I have to check my ego. I'm very aware of my ego. I have to humble myself, right, before somebody else do it for me. So if you are a person that are willing to, like myself, admit that you have an ego and put it in check, then you will find that it will be easier to actually find someone. Because a lot of people with egos, unfortunately, like think they are better than other people, right? They have this air of, you know what, I need this, I need that, like, and they think they're superior. They definitely have a superiority complex, right? And those type of people, it will be hard for them to get in relationships because they just think a lot of people is just not going to be up to their speed, up to their liking. Okay. Now, does that ring a bell when you hear your influencer speak? Let me know in the comments. Let's get to the next point.
Keep questioning if I'm happy with him or just satisfied and content. I think that with RRCD and even just being in partnership, we can become so obsessive over this idea of settling, this idea of happiness, this idea of just content and satisfied. And that itself can become an obsession. So basically what's happening when we're asking this question is we're still chasing an emotion and believing that that's love. The more we are telling our brain that that's what we need to do in order to feel good in our partnership. So a lot of the exposure work that we do with Awaken into Love and RRCD work is really to move away from the emotion piece and move into, oh my God, I don't feel anything with my partner right now. I don't feel any joy. I don't feel any love. And the more and more we lean into the discomfort, the more it actually allows us to be okay when we have these pockets of discomfort and
The second reason why a lot of successful people, your relationship gurus, etc., uh, have a hard time of even following their own advice is for fear of settling. All right, so they'll talk about in an address to you how your standards shouldn't be so high and things of that nature. Well, your female relationship advisors, they will probably talk about that you don't have to settle, sis, right? Because women often tell each other that. But I'm a person that will say that everybody have to settle. All right. You're not going to get 100% of what you're looking for. I believe in the 80-20 rule. I may have mentioned this before, right? You're going to get 80% of what you want, and 20% is what you're not going to want, which means it's what you're going to have to settle for. Okay. That is with anybody. If you can get 85-15, some people get 75-25. I wouldn't go below 75, but I think you get my drift. So at the end of the day, successful people a lot of times feel like they don't have to settle, right? Because they have a lot of options. And yes, they do. Okay. So selling is not on their mind. They're going to get what they want, or a lot of people, particularly women, because you hear the whole selling and what I'm worth from women, right? And those influencers, those content creators or women who give relationship advice, they're no different. Okay. Like they just feel like they're going to get what they want, or they'll rather die alone. I've actually heard a content creator say that before. Okay. So they're no different, right? So they believe that because they reach a level of success, which more times than not is money, okay, that they should get what they want. And you can keep wishing upon the star if you want to, but everybody has to settle. All right. Let's get into our third reason.
Like when if you're on here and like you have a list, I think being realistic with that list. I've had this conversation so many times with different people, and it's like, is this actually something that you could live without? And if so, I would take it off the list, right? Or is it something that you just could not live with if they didn't meet this thing on this list? Like, I know a bunch of girls, and they'll probably get on me, but it's like the height thing is like really, really major. And I'm just telling you, after 28 years, when they lay down, it's all about the same, right? So, but they like want them at a certain height, and I'm just like, so if somebody met the values, met the personality, but were like 20 pounds overweight or 3 inches too short, height wise, like, is that really a deal breaker? Like, could you honestly reason with yourself in 20 years when you're still single and alone? You're like, yeah, no, for real, that 3 inches was worth it.
So they may not meet your expectations, but the truth is they may exceed your needs.
Yes.
And that was the third reason why a lot of times your successful relationship experts are single is because of preferences, right? And it's nothing wrong with having preferences, nothing wrong with having standard. She touched on it. And a lot of times, I have to be honest, it's with women, right? Not that men don't have preferences and standards. It's just that we don't have as many. Okay. So a lot of time women be like, he has to be this tall, he got to make this amount of money, he got to be a family man, he got to do this, he got to do that. Now, of course, there are non-negotiables, right? But your non-negotiables need to make sense. A lot of times women and people in general have a hard time of distinguishing wants from needs, right? Height should be a want, not a need. So a lot of time women will pass up good men because they feel like he's not tall enough. And then at the same breath saying that there's not enough good men out here. Well, if you wasn't stuck on your height preference, then maybe you could find a good man. Same thing with money, right? Money is more of a want, not a necessity, particularly for those women. Remember, we talk about successful women. You're always successful, but you got it stuck in your mind that you have to have a man that's making just as much, as not more than you, right? But here's the kicker, right? A lot of times, those same women, right? We're talking about women who offer this relationship advice, right? They're giving you advice to women not to settle, not to do certain things. But at the same time, like the reason why they're single is because the men that are successful and that's on their level and above don't want them because of their attitude, because they think that they're better than people, because of their ego. You see how that's all coming into the fold, right? So all three of these reasons, they're similar, right? Ego, preferences, right? They're all combined. Okay. So that's the reason why a lot of time people struggle to get in relationships. Let's get into the fourth reason.
Trauma. Engaging in relationships is very difficult. And if we look at clinical diagnoses related to trauma, what we tend to find is that relationship difficulties are part of the clinical picture of trauma. We also see difficulty in relationships as features of complex PTSD. So in complex PTSD, we have impairments in things related to the self, and that includes relationships. So let's understand why. A relationship is about a connection between you and me. If there is a problem with me, there will be a problem with the relationship. If there is a problem with identity, there are definitely going to be problems with relationships, because then the me itself is not stable, is problematic in some way. So if if relationship is A plus B and A is somewhat messed up, then A plus B is going to be somewhat messed up. So if you have a history of trauma,
all right, and that was the fourth reason. And to be honest with you, we all deal with this. And it's trauma and past experiences, right? Nobody can get around this. No matter how much money you make, matter how famous you are, we all deal with trauma. We all process it differently. Some of us need therapy. A lot of us need therapy. Some of us can kind of deal with it, right? But at the end of the day, we all are impacted by what happened to us in the past or something that really shook us up and rattled us. So it doesn't matter how successful you are. So when I hear a lot of people talking, your influencers and people online, right? You can literally hear their past experience and their trauma speaking when they talk about their personal situation and why they're not in a relationship, right? Why is they say that they need certain things from a man, how they speak about themselves, right? So I'll be curious now because you're seeing a lot more. And to be honest with you, I'm a person that's very forthright with information, very transparent. So what you'll see nowadays is you have a lot of influencers who are speaking their mind, speaking about their personal experiences. But one thing you typically don't see when they in interviews is you don't see people really calling them out on certain things. You see it very little, but some influencers have been getting exposed. I'll say that. But at the end of the day, the reason why people are single is because they're really trying to prevent certain situations from happening again, and also something that's triggering them, which is the reason why they're having a hard time being in a relationship. Okay, let's get into our final and fifth one, and I promise you I saved this one for last for a reason. Let's do it.
That people continue to prioritize their careers over relationships is because only they can leave their career, but not only they can leave the relationship. You think, well, what are you doing this for? What's the outcome that you're looking to get here? Yeah, you want recognition and validation and all the rest of it. But it's like you've got it in the person that you lie next to at bed every night, right? Like you've got it in the kid that's 10 feet above you in the next room. Right? Why are you seeking all of this validation from people who, if you stopped doing what you did, would stop giving a fuck about you, whereas the people that are in the house around you don't care about what you do, they only care about who you are. And you're trading people who care about you for who you are for people who care about you for what you do.
And that's the fifth reason why your favorite influencers, social media personalities, however you want to call it, your successful men and women have a hard time being in a relationship is because they prioritize their career. I thought this was a fitting video to end off of because, I mean, why do you think the state of our relationships, the state of our families, the state of birth rates is what it is today? Is because people are prioritizing career, they're prioritizing making money, right? Over people. Okay. As we've all heard, people would do something very strange for a piece of change, right? Money transactions run a lot of things nowadays, right? Clout, fame, right? People want their name out there. Look what social media does to us. Even your average normal people want to be seen on social media. That's why they post all the time, selfies, they use filters, right? The list can go on and on, right? So, really successful people, they pour themselves into their career, right? Their career is their number one thing, whether men or women. But the only difference is men, that's how we was able to provide for our families, right? Is to pour ourselves into our career, right? So we was built for it. But now when you have women doing it as well, the family become less important, even though we say whether you conservative or liberal, however you want to look at yourself, even though we say family first and family is important, that's not how we act. Okay. So people who always putting money and career and missing games and missing this, spending a whole bunch of time outside the household, not spending a lot of time with their kids, right? Or not wanting kids. That's a big thing nowadays. It's like, I mean, a relationship is not going to be important when you just want to have fun and make money and live your best life. Okay. So all five of those factors combined is the reason why a lot of successful people are just okay with, flings and situationships and hookups. I mean, that's what's going on now. You had one of your more popular influencers now mentioned that they have a 5-year on and off relationship, essentially a fling with somebody because why? Because of ego, because of past relationships and trauma, because they're prioritizing their career. All those things I mentioned is the reason why they're doing that. And they can. They have the option to. So unfortunately, I wish I had a better outcome from 5-10 years from now, what it will look like. I don't see it getting any better. Hopefully it don't get worse. But as long as we keep praising people for how they live and what they do, and things are still transactional, this kind of where we are. We keep talking about, the dating pool. being trash, but a lot of time that's due with, you know, we just focus on career. We got big egos, right? We're so picky. I mean, all these things play a factor. So why family is not as important. And a lot of us would prefer to be single. A lot of us are telling ourselves, hey, I'm happy being single. Right. And it's kind of sad, but hey, it is what it is, man. So we're going to go on and end this episode. I ran over with the length, but I just had to get those 5 in because I thought they were so important. But thank you for staying if you did. If not, of course, you know, you can always come back and watch it at a later time when you have time. All right. But as always, you know, I like to thank my loyal supporters, my loyal followers. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please do so. All right. And hey, as always, I'm you, you are me. Love always, love eternal. Remember, the worst thing you do is lie to yourself. And we out. Deuces. One love.